in the practice, you can never really tell. Again, that's where, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I say, if the OB practice say, you can never tell a woman not to be in labor.
Okay.
A woman can be in labor anytime. So I have that one that.
So that's where, so when he's not back, if he's not back usually by 8:30 enough for us to pray together as a family, I still conduct the prayer. Again, that's where you have to be open and you have to be fluid. You see, it doesn't matter who leads as long as the couple understands what's going on.
Yeah.
And so that's how we did it. And of course, on Sundays, we made sure that we all went to church together. We woke up very early. I can't believe we did all that. Cook breakfast, eat, have actually breakfast at home before we go to church. Then it became a tradition we had. Now that the kids are gone, sometimes I cook breakfast. We may not sit at the table. We hang out on the sofa because we've done our part.
Yes. Okay. Another question in the chat mentioned some good marriages in diaspora have been affected negatively by overbearing influence of in-laws. How do you balance that influence?
Oh, you want to take that?
Well, again, you must know you're marrying a wife, you're not marrying a slave. You must let your parents know that, and this is my wife, and we're trying to build a family together. So you give us a little room.
Yeah, the fortunate thing for us, though, was that my parents, we had parents that were not interfering parents.
Yes.
My parents, if we give them fine, they'll thank us. What they want for us is peace. He said, please, don't ever fight with your husband.
Don't give me.
Over, don't give me. Okay, as long as you are at peace with your family. But saying that doesn't mean you don't remember your parents. Okay, and I had my mother-in-law love me like a daughter. When we were home, I would cook. The first thing she asked me, I'm supposed to serve her. She's my mother-in-law. Then she turned around and asked me, oh, Nerigo. So I had a wonderful relationship. And when we left, of course, once we got married in April 1973 in the church, we left right away. So there was, and at that time, there was no telephone. No, it took 6 weeks at the fastest. Yeah. I mean, actually, 3 months, yeah. Because you write a letter. Yes. You write a letter and it takes 6 weeks to get there. And if they respond to you, it takes 6 weeks to get back. So there was no room for interference. And even if people wrote, letters trying to interfere, and that's where the leadership comes in. The man had to be the one to protect the wife. Yes. Not protecting doesn't mean that his family is bad. It's just that you are a woman, you just left a home that you marry into another family, hoping to make it better. And so you're in the interim, you're trying to understand and understudy that family. And you're going to meet people who agree with you, you're going to meet people who don't agree with you. And so that is where the man as a protector comes in. Not that if the woman is is misbehaving. If your wife is misbehaving, then the woman will, they'll have to talk between themselves. Yes. And so the interference really, the parental interference is as much as the couple will allow. Okay? If you're a man, you have to make a difference between your love for your wife and your love for your mother. There are two different types of love. And if an interfering family member wants to get involved, they are not thinking of the fact that if there is no peace in that family, you can't get anything. Mm-hmm. You see, you really can't, it's going to be a struggle. So interfering parents out there, please, is in the best interest of yourself to leave the young couple alone.
Let them develop at their
Let them
pace.
develop at their own pace. Because when they have peace in their home, then you can come
Then you can
and
visit.
spend as much time as you want. You know, and that's a major mistake. And again, from experience, because we've counseled quite a few of our people, you know, the parents, it's like they control the marriages here by remote control. Everything that happens between your wife and the wife and husband, first of all, you send to they can't help you. They can't help you from miles away. So it behooves the couple involved. What do we want?
Yes.
Okay, what do you want in this relationship? You know, why are we married? Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. That was a great answer. And I know many of us on here, that was a good question, honestly, but also some of us are very lucky that we don't have that problem. And so we're thankful for that. Another question from the audience says, how do you spice up your marriage? And I actually had one of those questions for you, Iom and Ichie. You know, intimacy in marriage, sexual satisfaction, sexual dissatisfaction. You know, when you spice things up, do you mean, I'm sure the question was very broad, but we can go in as much detail as you're comfortable with, or as little detail as you're comfortable with. But sex is an integral part with every marriage. Sex was ordained by God. Sex was made to be enjoyed. And when people talk about spicing it up, is it necessary? Is it important? Or what have you learned along your years of marriage?
Go ahead. Okay. It is a very personal question.
Yes.
And it is a question that, as long as you're a human being and you're married, you know, sex is an integral part of the marriage relationship. And so the Bible said to wife what's going on? That wife, your body is not yours, is to be shared with your husband within the constraints of marriage. Mm. And the man, that your body is to be shared with your wife. And it didn't tell us how. So you have to be able to express yourself, to know what pleases you, and encourage the other person, your spouse. You know, you just have to work with each other. And as for the details about all the other things you use or not use, I don't think is for this public forum.
Absolutely.
But I think the most important thing is that the romance has to be kindled outside of the bedroom.
Yes.
It really, I mean, some people think that, oh, sex solves everything. It doesn't. Because if let's say your spouse comes through the door, there's no welcoming arms. Had a rough day at work, and or comes in storming in, comes in, not how are you, no hugs, no touches, nothing. Yeah, I think it will be very difficult to have a pleasant sexual experience. On the other hand, if there is hug, there is how was your day, you know, you wind down, maybe you read the newspaper together, and just share your day, share your feelings, you know, then it is easier. It makes it so much easier to be comfortable. You know, you don't even have to praise too much, you know, and we know that there is a big gender difference. You know, some of the women are slower to turn on, the men is not a problem. So Igbo people say, you have to come in agreement. And I think it's in reference to sexual relationships. You know, that is, it's not, I have my way. No, you can't have your way. It has to be mutual. It's for mutual satisfaction. Okay? And so there's a lot of begging. Oh, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. You know? Or biko, I'm not feeling. You know, you have to know what the biko is. What the biko is. What is the biko about? You know, you have to define it. You know, it's your biko. You have to be nice. You see, and we are talking to adults here. We are all adults in the room, and that is a fact. So that means the way you make your sexual bed is the way you're going to lie on it. If you make your wife happy, you make your husband happy, let him know what you like, you know, then it should not be an issue. If you resolve your conflicts, if you take your conflicts to bed, that's a huge elephant in between the two of you. That part of it, you might as well say goodbye because it's not going to happen. Because why? You have unresolved issues. And that's why it's so important to resolve issues, because it affects every single part of your life, and especially your sex life. And how do you spice it up?
Well,
how do you spice it up?
Well, first of all, I would call you the pet name that I know. And I call you Tichi, also his name is
Yeah. But yeah.
Can we at least talk?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not by force. It's by mutual agreement, for mutual understanding and mutual enjoyment. And also, how do we spice it up? You know, the flowers he gives me for no reason, not just for birthdays, because it's a culture we have adopted. It has in some way replaced Iweta, you know. And another thing the Igbo people know how to do very well, which I think some of us in the diaspora forget, is that a man will see the wife coming, hey, Achalug, you don't know what his motive is, but whatever that motive is, he's mellowing your heart, and you just melt. You know, he on a itu afa. She'll give you anything, but it's not by force. If you don't, it will just be, there's a difference between a soup you cooked with all your heart and the one that you just saying, okay, let me just cook. Okay, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate that answer and your candidness with that question. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit. This is more of a let's go back in time question. And if you could think about your unmarried self, and if you go back to that time before you got married, so during the Biafran War, while you were courting Iyom and she was in secondary school,
yeah.
What advice would you give yourself, and what could you have changed about yourself to have helped your marriage?
I could not have said anything.
Thank you, and that's great.
Being honest, I could not have changed anything. Maybe show more love. And I could actually, I think I did right. Right.
Yes, you did. And for me, if I, looking back at that 20 plus, you know, when he came back, I was about 18. And by the time I was just 2 months short of being 21, we had the Emanko. And I will look back at that 18 to 21, 20-year-old girl and tell her that she did well, that she did not run around.
Yes,
she was not, that girl was sure of herself. I was not desperate for men because fortunately, and that's unfortunately what our children don't have here. I had a lot of suitors, some older than me, some my age. And so I'll tell her that she did well. And once in that group of men that came, there was just something special about each year. It wasn't the money because he didn't have money at the time. He was in medical school. So I will say that she made the right choice. I will tell her that she made the right choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So another question that has come up is from Chuka. It says, did your relationship evolve over time? And how accepting should we be of the evolutions that occur in relationships? And how do you adapt to these changes?
Yeah, of course, we are not static. Times change, situations change, and we evolved. Yeah. And but there are some things that don't change, and those things that don't change are the basic values of respect. You have to have respect. You cannot insult your partner, your spouse in public, and expect the best from them. You have to have the spirit of forgiveness, and those are things that they really don't change, but we have to realize that they are very important values that you must go in and tap into at every single stage.
And you should support each other.
Yeah.
Because if one is shining, you support her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you support each other.
Yeah, you're not competitors. You just support each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You don't compete with each other. Because, for what? The most important competition is what we bring to the table,
for the peace and success. For the peace and the success of the marriage.
Mm-hmm. For the peace and success of the marriage, and for a very good enabling environment to raise the children when you have them.
Yes.
You cannot compete with each other. You can only support each other. And we've done that along the way.
And children just see, they learn what they see. When they see the two of you being in love with each other, laughing and talking to each other with respect, they know that this is why. Then they respect you. Now, if they go out anywhere, they can say, I'm proud of my parents. And that's good. That's a good example. For me, it was very important that we set a good example for my children to see.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of evolution also, interests change, okay? When I'll give a very quick example. When we came here, I knew I had to do pharmacy, and that's what I did. But about 1988 or thereabouts, I've always wanted the arts. It's just an integral part of who I am for self-development. So, but my husband at the time, he just could not understand.
Yes.
Why the arts? Why not pharmacy? Why the arts? But it took a while, and I asked him why. I tried to understand, why do you oppose me going to the art school? And then I realized that I wasn't making my case. It's one thing for you to have your dreams, but if you don't let your partner know what those dreams are, if you don't say your case, don't expect them to buy into it. You can't just say, he's always not support, he should know. No, he's not a mind reader. So, and so I when he told me that he was just wondering how I was going to go to school, manage the children, go to work, manage his practice. At that time, I had given up my pharmacy profession to manage his medical practice. So, and then I said, okay, that's what the opposition is. So talking about evolution, that's what the opposition was. And then I said, okay, if you support me in this, I'll promise you I will do my best. I will not trade you. I will not trade the children. I'll just support me and we'll see. And so I started. I went to the Wesleyan College and asked them, how long do I have? Fortunately, they had an on-call program. Again, that's why and how. Prior, I didn't know there was such an opportunity. So they say you can take as long as you want. So I gave myself a 10-year period. Some semesters I didn't go, and eventually I graduated. When I started, he would say, oh, Chi, what did you learn today? The humanities. You see, again, evolution on his part. Because in Nigeria, they did not do humanities and social sciences. So now he looked forward to me coming back with what did you learn today at Wesleyan College. And so we shared. It became another way of us sharing couples time. I will share with him what we learned, and it became storytelling time.
And she's very good at that.
Thank you. So you evolve, and if we are not open-minded, if he had been closed-minded, he would have lost out on that, and I personally would have lost out. And
actually, I said that when she went to art school, that's when my whole family got educated. My whole family, not just even in Nigeria. I said that my family got educated.
Yeah, and he said that.
And for better. For a little upliftment of the family entirely. And she and her sister.
That is so good.
Yeah, that's so. You have to be open. You have to be, you don't get closed-minded. Listen carefully to what your spouse is saying, because it may just be an avenue for growth for the whole family. It's not, if people go it alone, you only stay divided and unhappy.
It's too narrow.
Yeah, it's too narrow. And the arts really, it widened our scope. With that, we were studying medieval European art history. And I said, what about African history? You see what I'm saying? So with emphasis and with my assistants, we started teaching, at least for a few semesters, African art history. And I asked me to come and do it. And it helped me further develop my identity as a Black woman, a Nigerian woman, and Igbo woman in America, because identity is everything. You can have all the money in the world. If you deny self, you really have nothing. So I think that's why Ichie made that comment. Because after 10 years, he will meet me after he completes work. He will meet me at the studio at Wesleyan. He will bring the children sometimes, and they'll come and be doing their homework there. It became a family thing. 5 years prior to that, would you have thought that that would be the effect? No. So we have to be open to change, listen to each other, support each other's dreams. It might as well do it for the benefit of the whole. So that's the kind of evolution. If we close our minds, we are never going to evolve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that answer. So as your relationship evolved, your relationship probably also evolved financially, and we are so thankful that you both were blessed financially. Can you speak a little bit about managing finances in marriage, recommendations for investments that couples can make, how to plan for retirement now that you both are retired, and you were give us a glimpse as to what to expect.
Well, the point is, we started early because my certified financial advisor told me, once I pay the IRS, you pay yourself. That's when I was in practice. Pay the IRS, pay yourself to and leave a little bit saving for yourself for hard times.
Yeah, and also at the very, very basic root, we have to we washed our spending.
Yes.
you know, we did not try to keep up with the Joneses,
yes.
or the Okonkwas.
Yes.
You know, I mean, the clothes don't wear me, I wear the clothes. So when we were starting off, my dear friend in New York, I mean, he was in residency. Her husband too was. So we didn't have any money. Our annual salary was $8,000 a year. That was 8, not 80,
8,000
a year.
That was my salary.
Okay, that was his salary.
Coming to residence
in 1973.
Yes.
So we went to thrift shops, you know, and wore it with pride. There was this Canal Street. If you don't have money for Canal Street, what are you going there to do?
Yes.
You see? So you have to not try to keep up with anybody, but look at your own personal space. Look at, because every couple is different. Their financial needs are different. And then we don't have to forget the fact that we have people that we left in Nigeria who are looking and hoping that will give them, that will help them.
Yes.
You know, we make something of ourselves. And so we myself and my friend Chinwe, we decided.
I'd help them by means of helping to send their children to school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or actually helping them feed themselves if they are not able to.
Mm-hmm. And so we chose. I mean, we could have spent some of that money to go to non-thrift stores. But we chose. It was a choice we made. And I said, I for my fully, only the stomach will know what's in there, you know? And so we chose our friends. We chose who we hung with, you know? And so we were able to save. We were able to not do frivolous spending. We were able to just do the basic things that we need. And we were not worse off until—
We don't compete for—
No, we don't compete.
For excellence.
Well, we compete for excellence, but not for—
in terms of clothing.
Yeah, clothing, yeah. And so you save and save and save, you know, until we moved from sharing an apartment when we came here with another doctor friend.
Yes.
To we graduated to an efficiency apartment. Then we graduated to a 2-bedroom apartment in New York, and then to a 3-bedroom apartment, and then to a home. You see what I'm saying? And along the way, we did not lose our sense of self. We were not competing. We were content. Again, that's another issue. You have to be content and be careful who you're trying to impress. When we're trying to impress somebody else, that's where the pressure comes in. Yeah. We have to be careful who our friends are.
Like if you go to Nigeria, sometimes you hear people say, XYZ went to America 1 year, but he came back with 10 cars and built a house. So they come and say, you've been there donkey years and you didn't bring anything back. So as I tell them, ask him what he was doing. Because at that time, you know, there were so many drug pimps asking what he was doing. They make so much money in short time.
Yeah. So that essentially, you have to save. You have to save for the rainy day. You have to, you still enjoy yourself within the confines of your budget. You have to make a budget.
Yes.
You know, in terms of spending too, really, it varies from couple to couple. For me, I didn't have to worry. Like I said, I had my own personal account. For some couples, it's a big issue. I had my personal account, but at some point when there was an issue, I closed that account and used it to help the family. Because I know my husband already established it earlier on that I can trust him. I can trust him with taking care of me. Okay, so I didn't have to have a separate account. But in situations where I think women are not sure, then they start having a separate account that really, sometimes it brings you disunity. There has to be a budget. You know, if a man is making more or a woman is making more, some couples decide, okay.
And nobody's spending.
Yeah, our budget is XYZ. Okay, if they choose to keep their money separate, which is actually an Igbo tradition. Because in Igbo land, back in the good old days, men that are men, Ichie, you said it to me.
Yeah, my father never asked money from my mother.
Mm-hmm. Men that are men don't ask, you know, demand that their wives. If you want her to give you something, then there's a way you approach her. And that woman should have sense enough to know that the money she's making is also for the upliftment of the family. So you keep that money up to yourselves, and your husband is suffering. Your children are suffering. What have you gained? In the traditional Igbo society, if a woman is the one that makes the money, sometimes she will give us, you know, work behind the scenes.
Yes.
And the village, even though they know it, she'll say her husband did it. Okay? So what we're saying here is, it really doesn't matter who is making more. The central focus is budget. How do you see yourselves together? This money you're making, is it going to bring division in your family, or is it going to enhance your family? And then you're thinking ahead, lifetime, you know, what they call it, long-term care insurance, you know, that's what helped us too.
Because we cannot tell what will happen around the world.
Mm-hmm. We saved up and we took on this long-term care insurance. And after my husband had a stroke, I made sure that anyone that is willing to hear, I said so. I said, investigate, find out about this long-term care, because if you need it, it's great. But if you need it and you don't have it, America is a rough place. Mm. You know, you might think you're making $1 million today. I promise you that that million will not go a long way in America if there is disability.
Because one ICU admission will cost close to $500,000.
You know, it depends on the length of stay. You know, so you have to really think ahead. And honestly, I'm going to divert a little bit, because there is something I've noticed in our community that is so frivolous. You know, this Ashobi thing. You know, people are spending so much money, easily, $500 on Ashobi for one event, for something they will never use again. Why not do colors, let people wear what they want? It's unnecessary waste of money, knowing fully well what community we come from at home, that village you come from, that umunna you come from, that you umuada that you are part of. There is a widow, there's an orphan. So instead of wasting all that money on, I'm picking on Ashebi, okay, because it's really, you all understand what I'm saying. It's gone out of hand in our community. So we should have, you know, make sensible decisions instead of spending all that money. You know, let that actually be for the family, you know, for the people who are doing this stuff, and the rest, you know, do a shuffle, you know, put a shawl or a collar in support. That's fine. But that actually, if you all the money you spend on it over 10 years is enough to put an investment towards one of your children, or put an investment towards your retirement. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we can go on finances, but you have to be good stewards of what God has given you.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you. It is now it's past 9:30, so I think we have time for almost 9:30. We'll take 2 more questions that are in the chat, and we will probably wrap up, right, Ugo, Colette? So the first question said how do you make sure that we imbibe our culture in our kids' lives as Igbos that we are?
Oh yeah, very, very important. If I should say I have a life's calling, that is that.
That's true.
You know, cultural identity. And that's, I guess that's part of the reason I went back to pharmacy, to art school. Identity is everything. How do we do it? It starts from the home. And that was the reason the children, imbibing our culture to our children, was the reason God gave me the vision of founding a Ujuka cultural organization, for those of you who are familiar with it. And the emphasis, the focus is on children, educating children about Nigerian Igbo roots, cultural roots. Okay, and that's something they can't get anywhere. Before we moved down to Macon, Georgia, we were in Washington, D.C., Maryland area. Yeah, we had Igbo events. We had, not Igbo events, we had birthdays, but it wasn't really anything structured, okay? And so then we came down to Macon, and we were the oldest, you know. And the thing too, for us, I wouldn't say we are pioneers, but pioneers in the sense that we were, among this group, we are the older ones. And now the newer ones have some things set in place. For us, there was none. So I talked with my husband, I said, this is what I'm thinking about. We need to have some kind of structure, social structure. Outside of birthday parties and weddings and christenings, we have to have a structure to teach our children and create a network so that they can see like-minded children, you know, from Nigeria, or especially the emphasis was on Igbo. And we had monthly meetings, still have, thank God, nonstop from 1986 to date. We've not skipped a beat. Every last month of every last Sunday of the month, we gather the group of children. We took our children. Some of the women that joined us that came from Nigeria, it became a network, because again, when our people come from Nigeria, you need to have a network of support to tap into, to show you the way. That is the Igbo way. Igbo Union, wherever the Igbos went. I was born in northern tip of Nigeria, Nguru, and even as far as Nguru, there was Igbo Union. Essence of Igbo Union is to keep our culture, our identity together. And any Igbo person that comes into a town, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you ask, are there Igbo people here? And then you tap into that network. We have to create that network. And that's what Ujuka did for our children. And they look forward to that. Through that Ujuka, we developed programs that talked about rites of passage for girls and boys. This is what I'm saying. So, on their graduation day, some of you men here have attended those programs, and some of our children here, I'm looking at them, Ozoma, you know, and Uche, all of them, they were the older ones. They were the older ones. She said, please don't call me, you know. So they were the first graduates of that program. And we begged our people, please bring your children. We have a purpose. We are focusing on education. And for us women, it was great, because there are so many of them I would never have known without that focus on culture. So I really am an advocate for that. You know, no Igbo woman, no Nigerian woman, no African woman or man that leaves home, if you keep your children separated, they'll be the ones to lose. Already we're in a country where there is so much. Nobody is going to teach your children about Igbo culture, about network, but you. Okay, excuse me. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I don't know if that.
Yeah. No, that was I think that definitely answered the question. Okay. Then our final question for the night is, how can you address the divorce rate in our community? Can you comment on the rate of divorce in our community? What can we do to mitigate that as a group?
Well, what I would say is, again, you have to go back to say, is this the same woman that I loved years ago? What is going on? Can't I put my house in order? It becomes your personal challenge to put your house in order by making sure that there's peace in your family. Also for the man and for the woman also, because united we stand, divided we fall. So for me as a man, I say, well, I want to keep peace in my family, and I pray that my wife will also join me with that desire.
Yeah, and divorce again, it goes back. Why do we divorce? It's because of unresolved issues. Is because of
physical abuse.
Yeah, physical abuse. You know, that could be one of it.
Is that a deal breaker? Can that be a deal breaker?
Could physical abuse be a deal breaker? Of course. Oh, for me, it is for us, it's a deal breaker. There's no compromise when it comes to physical abuse, you know, of anybody, let alone somebody you call your wife.
And then somebody's daughter too.
And somebody's daughter, or the men can be abused too, can be beaten. Yeah, the men can be abused, but they won't say it. It's even worse for them. Because can you imagine the man coming out to say, my wife beat me? The other men will laugh him to scorn, you know? So, and while the prevalence is more on women being beaten, yes, it is a deal breaker. And why do I say so? Is that in Igbo land, it's not accepted. The Igbo people, when they joke, they actually go to war to fight for their daughter who is being abused. And of course, with some of the abused women, they don't know how to live. They are scared, and especially in America, they're too scared. They don't have money. Where would they go with their children, especially if there are children involved? And so they stay, and then expose these children to abuse, which is even worse.
Which is terrible. I mean, it's children watching the parents fighting. It's a permanent scar on their childhood.
And so divorce happens. Again, unresolved issues, lack of openness, pride. I can say I'm sorry, infidelity, and a whole host of other things. That's why it happens. And then those issues, and you said in our community, again, don't forget, what makes it even harder is that we left home and we don't have that social safety net. Most people don't have, the man or woman don't really know a trusted friend they can go to. You know, a trusted, I mean trusted, not somebody that likes the wife or the husband, but somebody that has the interest of the union at heart to approach. You know, it's first of all, most important thing, try and iron resolve within yourselves. And but if it comes to, without involving, but if it comes to where you really can't get anything done, or you live as strangers, that's even worse.
Then
get a trusted person. It's worse to leave Nigeria and come here and live as a stranger in your home. No communication, nothing. You just renters. That's not marriage. So the couple has to have that understanding. Look, whatever it is, let's all talk about it. It has to be addressed. And issue of violence, no. Extreme emotional abuse, that's even is as bad because it doesn't leave external scars. Okay, but that can be just as bad. Like I said, Igbo people don't condone any wife beating. God doesn't condone it either. It's against the law of God. It's against the law of the tradition we came from. So why should we come in America and do so?
So a follow-up question to wrap up is the issue of marriage counseling that, you know, maybe could be looked upon negatively, which shouldn't really be looked upon negatively. When do you recommend, based on your years of marriage or successful marriage, that a couple should seek marriage counseling?
I would say if people live in their home, there's no sex, no touching, no how are you, no loving care, nothing. They're just there. They're like zombies. That's not marriage. It's time to seek help. If a couple, either one is experiencing severe trauma, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, oh yes, I'll go there in marriage, because that's something that is hard for some of our people to understand. It happens even in Nigeria, it happens here. Okay? When it's not always good, but I'm not saying that every unconsented is abusive. I'm just saying that all these things, you have to have a consensus. You have to come to it by mutual agreement, by knowing how to talk to each other. And so if people end up being total strangers in a home, it's time to seek help, outside help, but not just any help, a help that will help veer them back towards
the mission.
Why did they get married in the first place? And if children are involved, and if children are present,
if the children are present, in other words, if they have children not involved.
Oh, okay. If there are children in the home, you don't want to expose them to strife. You don't want to see them see either parent disrespect the other. It's not good for them.
Or shouting to each other.
And so, for the sake of the children, it's time to seek help from a trusted source. Okay, that's it. That's just a few. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, I think that's the end of our questions from the audience and some questions that I came with for the event. I really thank you. I am so grateful, Iche and Iyom, for number one, your time, your honesty, your being open, and having these candid conversations. The whole point of this series was to really dig deep and talk about issues that may not come up commonly, or issues that we may not always have time to discuss. And so I'm very thankful that you guys are open. We admire you. We wish to attain to some of your level of accomplishment, both in life and in marriage. And we continue to wish you the very best. We pray for health on you guys. We pray for continued love. We pray that your family would continue to grow, your children, wherever they are, the grandchildren, as you've been blessed and you've blessed us with your time, that their lives will continue to be blessed as well. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand over to Colette or Ugo to wrap up for the evening.
On behalf of my wife, I have to thank you very much for inviting us.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just echo what Uju said. Thank you, Uju, for a wonderful moderation. Thank you, Ugo. Thank you, Obinjoku, for putting this together. Iche, this is our fourth series of this Friday series. And today we recorded, I want to tell you that we recorded the highest number of participants in the in the 4 weeks that we've been doing this. So I want you to take that as an appreciation of who you are in our community, you and your wife. And of course, a lot of people came anticipating to hear some great things. And I want to believe that we got that. Muna, I'm sitting here watching with my wife, and I've taken some lessons. Initially, when you started, I remember when you said, when the argument gets too hard, just say, I'm going to go away with that one. I'm going to take that to the bank. She's here smiling because that's what I'll be saying from now on. Once they go against stuff, so thank you guys very much. We really appreciate you in this community, and we pray that Almighty God will continue to protect you. We value you in this our community. Iyom, thank you for a wonderful job and taking care of Ichie and being a mother to a lot of women.
Never raise your hands against your spouse. Never do that.
No, we don't do that. We don't do that. That's a no. That's a break a deal for.
That's right.
We don't do that. So we thank you guys very much, and to all the people that called in, thank you for calling in, and we're looking forward to next week. The event is growing, and Ugo, I can't thank you enough, CMO and NICCA of Atlanta, for dialing in and putting this together. I see our immediate past president of NICCA, and Zelaka is on. I see Anibe is on. So I want to thank all you guys and Omalicha from. I see Omalicha from Bahamas. I see Dr. Nwokeji, Stella Nwokeji from Memphis. She was our panelist last week. So I thank everybody and have a wonderful night. Stay home, stay safe, and stay alive. Thank you very much.
Okay, on the panel. Jersey.
Jesse called it. Wow, fantastic.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. But this is awesome. Awesome.
CMO.
Thank you. Good job. Oh, what's your name?
And this is wonderful. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Catch your phone.
Yes.
I'm not your bedtime. I pass go, but we apologize. Asuna, if bolo, if I put the beer, come. Back and back and carry big event. Will love it.
Yeah, Dalon.
That's great. That's great. Dalon.
Oh, she's by the beach enjoying herself.
I've been looking at show of a TV that we have called Real.
Oh no, Caribbean.
Cousin
and us out. Yeah. Uzo, bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
That's wonderful.